For decades, the Islamic Republic of Iran has pursued a foreign policy defined by a concept it calls the axis of resistance. This is not a formal military alliance in the traditional sense, but rather a sophisticated and sprawling network of non-state actors, militias, and allied governments across the Middle East. The central idea is to project Iranian influence and challenge its primary adversaries, namely Israel and the United States, without engaging in direct conventional warfare. This strategy of plausible deniability allows Tehran to exert pressure, retaliate against perceived aggressions, and shape regional events from a distance, all while minimizing the risk of a devastating, full-scale conflict on its own soil. It is a calculated and asymmetric approach to power in a volatile region. The logic behind this proxy strategy is rooted in Iran's post-revolutionary history and its strategic limitations. Lacking a powerful modern air force and navy to compete with American or Israeli military might, Iran has instead invested its resources in cultivating a ring of fire around Israel. By arming, training, and funding groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthi movement in Yemen, Tehran has effectively outsourced its confrontations. These groups serve as forward-deployed assets capable of launching attacks, tying down Israeli forces, and creating persistent security dilemmas for its foes. This approach has allowed Iran to punch well above its conventional military weight, turning local conflicts into arenas for its grander geopolitical struggle. This indirect methodology has proven to be a remarkably effective, albeit costly, tool for extending Iran's strategic depth far beyond its borders. The network provides a buffer, keeping conflict away from Iranian cities and critical infrastructure. When its interests are threatened, Tehran can activate one or more of its proxies to respond, creating a multi-front crisis for its opponents. For years, this network functioned as a cohesive and menacing force, giving Iran significant leverage in the complex political landscape of the Middle East. The ability to threaten key maritime choke points, hit Israeli cities with rockets, and destabilize neighboring states has made Iran a formidable player, all without firing a single shot from an Iranian soldier on foreign land. However, the very nature of this strategy also contains inherent vulnerabilities. Its success depends on a delicate ecosystem of logistical support, stable political alliances, and the continuous flow of funds and weapons. The proxies themselves, while aligned with Iran's goals, also have their own local agendas and can be unpredictable. Furthermore, by empowering these groups, Iran has made itself the central target of countermeasures from the United States and Israel, who view Tehran as the ultimate source of regional instability. This has set the stage for a long-running shadow war, one that, as recent events have shown, is no longer content to remain in the shadows. At the heart of Iran's proxy network stands Hezbollah, the Party of God in Lebanon. Forged in the crucible of the Israeli occupation of Lebanon in the 1980s, Hezbollah has evolved into the most powerful and sophisticated non-state military force in the world. With Iran's unwavering support, it has amassed a vast arsenal of rockets and missiles capable of striking anywhere in Israel, alongside a battle-hardened army that has fought in Syria. Hezbollah is more than just a militia. It is a political party with seats in the Lebanese parliament and a deep social services network, making it an integral part of the Lebanese state. For Iran, Hezbollah is its crown jewel, a powerful deterrent force sitting directly on Israel's northern border. Further south, in the besieged Gaza Strip, Iran has cultivated a complex relationship with Hamas. As a Sunni Islamist group, Hamas does not share Hezbollah's Shiite ideology, but it does share a common enemy in Israel. Iran provides Hamas with funding, weapons, and technological know-how, enabling it to build its own rocket arsenal and wage a persistent insurgency against Israel from within Palestinian territory. While the relationship has had its ups and downs, particularly over the Syrian civil war, Hamas remains a crucial component of the axis of resistance. Its ability to ignite conflict in Gaza serves Iran's strategic goal of keeping Israel bogged down and distracted on multiple fronts, preventing it from focusing its full attention on Tehran. In Yemen, the Houthi movement, formerly known as Ansar Allah, represents the southernmost pillar of Iran's proxy axis. The Houthis, who belong to the Zaidi branch of Shiite Islam, have been locked in a brutal war against a Saudi-led coalition for years. Iran has provided them with increasingly sophisticated drones, ballistic missiles, and naval capabilities. This support has transformed the Houthis from a local insurgency into a regional threat capable of striking targets deep inside Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and more recently, disrupting global shipping in the Red Sea. For Iran, the Houthis provide a strategic foothold on the Arabian Peninsula, allowing it to pressure its primary regional rival, Saudi Arabia, and threaten a vital global maritime choke point. Together, these three groups have formed the operational arms of Iran's regional strategy. Each has a distinct local context and set of objectives, but they are united by Iranian patronage and a shared opposition to the United States and Israel. By nurturing these pillars, Iran created a formidable arc of influence that stretched from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea. This network gave Tehran the ability to project power, challenge the regional status quo, and counterbalance the immense military superiority of its adversaries. For years, the strength of these pillars made the axis of resistance a defining feature of the Middle East's geopolitical landscape, one that seemed resilient and ever-expanding. The long-simmering shadow war between Iran and Israel escalated dramatically in the first half of 2025, fundamentally altering the strategic calculus for all parties. On June 13th, following a finding by the IAEA that Iran was non-compliant with nuclear agreements, Israel launched a massive and unprecedented air campaign. Over 200 fighter jets struck approximately 100 targets across Iran, including key nuclear facilities like the Arak heavy water reactor, military bases, and command centers. This move marked a significant departure from the previous pattern of targeted assassinations and covert sabotage, representing a direct, state-to-state military confrontation. The strike was a clear message that Israel would no longer tolerate Iran's nuclear ambitions or its proxy encirclement. Iran's response, while swift, highlighted the limitations of its own conventional capabilities. Rather than unleashing its proxies, Tehran chose to retaliate directly, launching a barrage of missiles at Israel. The strikes caused significant damage, with reports indicating that a major hospital in southern Israel was hit and 240 people were wounded in residential areas of Tel Aviv. This exchange of fire shattered the long-held taboo against direct military engagement and drew the world's attention. The United States, under President Donald Trump, announced it would decide within 2 weeks whether to intervene directly, raising the stakes to a global level and placing immense pressure on Tehran's leadership, who warned of irreparable damage from any American involvement. The most devastating blow to Iran's network, however, came not from an Israeli airstrike, but from the sudden and unexpected collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria. For over a decade, Assad's Syria was the critical land bridge connecting Iran to its most valuable proxy, Hezbollah in Lebanon. This 1,574-kilometer corridor was the primary artery for the flow of advanced weaponry, funds, and fighters. With the fall of the regime, this vital link was severed overnight. Iran's primary logistical route was disrupted, forcing it to rely on precarious air and sea smuggling routes that are far more vulnerable to Israeli interception. The strategic depth that Iran had spent billions of dollars and countless lives to build in Syria simply evaporated. The cumulative effect of these events has been a catastrophic weakening of the axis of resistance. The fall of Assad has left Hezbollah isolated, with its de facto leader, Naim Qassem, reportedly fleeing to Iran for his own safety. The group, facing a new reality on its eastern flank and pressure from a direct Israeli threat, has been forced into a defensive posture, even withdrawing its military infrastructure from southern Lebanon. In a telling sign of its weakened state, Hezbollah officially stated it would not retaliate for the Israeli strikes on its patron, Iran. The once feared ring of fire has been broken, its central linchpin shattered, leaving the entire proxy strategy in a state of unprecedented crisis. Iran's long-term investment in its proxy network has come at a staggering economic cost, a burden that has become unsustainable amidst recent strategic setbacks. For years, Tehran poured billions of dollars into propping up the Assad regime in Syria, arming and financing Hezbollah to the tune of hundreds of millions annually, and supplying Hamas and the Houthis with the tools of war. This immense expenditure was justified as the price of projecting power and ensuring national security. Now, however, Tehran faces the worst of all possible outcomes. It has expended vast national treasure on allies and assets that are either neutralized, isolated, or unable to effectively advance its interests. leaving the country both strategically weakened and economically crippled. The strain is starkly visible in Iran's domestic economy. Even before the recent escalation, the country was grappling with severe US sanctions, rampant inflation, and a currency in freefall. Between January 2024 and January 2025 alone, the Iranian rial lost an astonishing 62% of its value against the dollar. This has caused the price of essential goods to skyrocket, placing immense pressure on ordinary Iranian citizens and fueling widespread discontent. The government's decision to fund foreign wars and militias while the population struggles has created a deep well of resentment, undermining the regime's legitimacy at a time when it is facing its greatest external threats. The strategic dividends from the axis of resistance no longer appear to justify the immense domestic sacrifice. The recent military blows have only compounded this economic crisis. With the Syrian land bridge gone and Hezbollah on the defensive, Iran's ability to leverage its most effective proxies has been severely diminished. The Houthis in Yemen remain its only active proxy, but their geographic distance and relatively modest arsenal limit their capacity to meaningfully threaten Israel. They have become a peripheral actor in the central conflict. Iran is now left with a network that is a shadow of its former self, a collection of weakened partners who are more of a liability than an asset. The grand strategy of asymmetric warfare has backfired, leaving Iran more isolated and vulnerable than before. In conclusion, the landscape of the Middle East as of June 2025 is fundamentally different from that of just a year ago. The axis of resistance, once the central pillar of Iran's foreign policy, has been fractured by direct military confrontation and the geopolitical earthquake of the Assad regime's collapse. Iran now finds itself in a precarious position, its strategic doctrine in tatters, its economy in crisis, and its primary adversaries emboldened. The future of the region may well be defined not by the strength of Iran's proxies, but by Tehran's struggle to adapt to a new reality, where its long-standing strategy of indirect warfare is no longer viable.